This video will show you how to use Google Calendar to streamline your workflow. To access your Google Calendar, you can go to calendar.google.com, or if you're signed into Chrome, you can click the waffle icon up here and choose Calendar. If you're using a Chromebook, you can go to the Calendar app. If you're using a mobile device such as a tablet or a smartphone, your calendar will look slightly different, so the purposes of this video will be on a browser with a full computer. So your basic calendar is in the middle, and you have some items across the top and down the side. Over here you have a mini calendar that you can jump forward or backward on, and you can click any specific day. You can also jump week by week up here at the top, and you can always jump back to the day quickly by clicking this button. Because my view is set to week, I can also change it to a single day, the entire month, or the next 7 days on a rolling basis. I can also click Agenda to see individual items in the list, especially if my calendar is very full on a single day. Because I'm only viewing my calendar and all of my items are the same color, I can always click over here on my name, hover over the arrow, and choose a different color. This is helpful to change different colors when you have overlapping calendars, which we'll get to in a moment. This allows you to color code each individual's calendar or a shared calendar when you're trying to schedule things together. I can also import other calendars from other Google accounts, which is especially helpful when you're combining calendars for someone outside your domain, such as a personal calendar with a school calendar. The items you see here are single event items with specific beginning and ending times. I also have day-long calendar items, and I can have reoccurring items that go over an entire period, such as a winter break. So let's take a look at the settings of a single event item. You're going to click Create, and it'll bring you to this page. You need to give the event a title to appear on your calendar. By default, it'll choose today's date, and I can choose any time. Let's say this event starts at 1 o'clock, and it's going to last for 1 hour. For this calendar item, I'm not going to have a video call. It's going to appear on my calendar, and I want to remind myself shortly before it begins. You can change the time to anything you want. You can even do days or weeks if you're scheduling pretty far out. Or I can have a pop-up notification, which means if I'm within my calendar, and a notification will come up here in the middle of the screen. I like to use email, so it will send me an email and ding on all the devices that I have calendar set up on. Since I have the basics set in there, now I can click Save. This created an item. I can tell that it's a future item because it's not grayed out as it is in the past. Now let's make this event a day-long item. I can click on the item at any time to edit it. This time I want it to be an all-day item, and I want it to begin and end on September 30. This time it gives me the option to email a day before at a specific time to remind me. Now when I click Save, it's an item here listed in my whole day view. If I wanted to make this a reoccurring item, I need to uncheck all day and I want it to repeat. Let's say I want this to be a 1-hour session that repeats every weekday, and I want it to end on October 2nd. Now it's going to repeat from 10 to 11 a.m. on every weekday until October 2nd. This kind of setup would be helpful if you wanted to schedule lunch at the same time every day, or a club on a weekly basis, or some other reoccurring event. Now let's create an event in which we invite others. For this item, I'm going to have multiple people invited to the event. I'm going to make it last a 1-hour meeting. If I'm going to invite people, I need to tell them where to go. Although I can put anything here, if I put a specific item that has an address, my guests can find it using their maps. This is especially helpful if you're inviting people from somewhere else who are not familiar with your area. Since I'm inviting others, I may want to leave the video call on in case people who cannot attend in person could call in with a video call and attend the meeting virtually. It is helpful to have a description of the meeting so your guests know what to expect and what the meeting is for. For a meeting with others, I might want to add an attachment, such as a Google Doc agenda of what we plan to discuss during our meeting. But this is not required. Again, I could set my email notification to come to me 5 minutes before, or 13, 20, depending how long I wanted to have notice. But remember, each guest can choose their own notification setting. Now it's time to invite the guest. When I click over here, I need to start typing their names. If they are in my contact list or within my domain, their email should pop up. I choose the one I want. I can add multiple people. For optional attendees, I just need to click the head icon and make it opaque. If I leave it as dark, they are required to attend. Down here I have the option to let guests have access. Guests could add others, change the details, or see who's attending. For this purpose, I don't want them to invite anyone else. This will be a closed meeting. But I'll also let them see the guest list to see who has replied and who has not. Once I'm done with the calendar session, I would click Save. You should get a pop-up notification asking if you want to send this calendar invite to your guest. This will trigger an email from Google Calendar to them with the details that you provided here, and they can easily respond yes, no, or maybe to the invitation. If they click yes, it will add the item to their calendar. A calendar invite looks like this through email, in which recipients can say yes, maybe, or no, and while also comparing their calendar on the side with simultaneous events. When you've created items that you've sent invites for, you can always click on it to see who has responded yes or no, or maybe. Should you be closer to the item event in your calendar, you can send a reminder to all those who have been invited with an optional message. So now that you've seen a calendar on an individual level, let's add others on top of yours. When you hover over My Calendars, you can add other items you may have access to. If you click the arrow and go to Settings, these are calendars that you can view and modify. You can turn them on or off on your view level depending on how much you want to see at one time. For our purposes, we're going to turn on the high school calendar and middle school calendar, and a training calendar. When I have checked those and I go back to my calendar, I now have calendars layered on top of my own. This is where color coding is going to be very helpful. My original calendar is still purple, but I have 2 additional calendars in different colors. Because I have a training session on Tuesday, I also wanted to share it with a high school calendar and a middle school calendar so all the staff members could see those on that calendar. And then I can see multiple calendars over a month. If I go back to my calendar settings, I can see other calendars that I have imported. So if I want to see a coworker's calendar, I need to check the box and go back to my calendar. Now I have another layer of calendar items on my own calendar. This is helpful if I'm trying to schedule meetings and find free spots within multiple people's calendars. Since I am the owner of multiple calendars, or I have access to multiple calendars to post items, when I create a new event, I need to be sure of what calendar I'm putting the item on. If I go back to our sample, right now it defaults to my own calendar, but if I wanted to put this on any of the other calendars that I have access to, I could. If I wanted this calendar to go on the professional development calendar, when I save it this time, it will become a red item because it's on the professional development calendar. If an item was on the calendar that I wanted to add to my own, I could copy to another calendar. This is helpful if I have a personal item that I also want to put on a shared calendar with an entire building. And if I wanted to make my calendar available to others, I can default with everyone in my domain. I can allow to choose them to see all the details or just boxes of time where I'm not available. This is helpful if you need to show a supervisor your calendar or a coworker for scheduling items. Below other calendars, I can import a personal calendar on top of my professional one. This is helpful if you have spouses or children that you want to keep track of, such as a family calendar. I can also turn on holidays. Also, if you attend a conference that has a calendar in a Google format, I can import it here and all the sessions that I signed up for would populate on my calendar. This is helpful for professional development tracking. If I decide my calendar is too cluttered, I can uncheck items and hide the calendar. Or I can simply display only this calendar and get back to my simple calendar. I can also use Google Calendar to keep track of tasks that I need to complete that aren't necessarily tied to a date. When I click Task, I can just make a to-do list over here. If I want to make one specific to a day, I can type in a date. Because I added a date to this task, it automatically populated on my calendar. So I can use this as a running task list of what to do. I can assign dates in which to do them or leave them blank. When I have completed a task, I check it off and I can clear completed task. If you're using Google Classroom, your calendar is now integrated with your assignment due dates. If I create a due date for an assignment in Google Classroom, it has created a calendar over here in which I can see. So all the classes that I would have in Classroom would appear over here, and my due dates would be there just like any other assignment. This is helpful for students and teachers when keeping track of when due dates come up. So that was the basics of creating events in your Google Calendar and using it to manage your work time and tasks. Using Calendar is especially helpful for planning events such as parent conferences, test dates, and personal appointments.